In the spring of 1937, Edwina Mountbatten, a society figure hailed by newspapers as England's most beautiful woman, was planning another glamorous European trip. Her itinerary was a carefully curated whirl of pleasure, and by her side was not her husband but a new lover. The only obstacle to her carefree indulgence was her 8-year-old daughter, craving attention and affection. In a Hungarian hotel, the little girl reached for her mother's hand, only to be met with a sharp rebuke and a slap on her fingers. "No scenes, Pamela. The nanny will look after you," Edwina snapped, addressing her child as coldly as a stranger. To her, her daughter's presence on this trip was an inconvenience. Leaving Pamela with the staff, Edwina swept off into the dazzle of European balls and soirees. Heartbreakingly, she later couldn't even recall where she'd left her daughter. For the mother, it was just a fleeting moment in a string of travels. For the child, it marked the start of a deep, aching emptiness left by the indifference of those closest to her. Edwina's family lived in wealth and privilege. Her mother came from the affluent line of banker Joseph Castle, and her father, Wilfred Ashley, built a career among British conservatives. The union of capital and title seemed perfect, but cracks soon appeared behind the polished facade. In 1911, Edwina's father was widowed and soon remarried. His new wife made it clear from the start where the child stood. "The girl is poorly raised," she sneered after barely glancing at her stepdaughter. Edwina's beloved nanny, the one person she was attached to, was dismissed without hesitation. Then came the decision to send the girl away to a boarding school for girls, where she'd no longer be a burden. Edwina's husband later recalled the stepmother bluntly: "She was a deeply unkind woman who relished controlling others' lives." Link's School in Eastbourne was a harsh awakening for Edwina. There, she faced the cruelty of her peers. Aristocratic families quickly learned her grandfather was a wealthy German, and that was enough to make her a target. Her notebooks were smeared with ink, her belongings deliberately ruined, her every move mocked. Driven to despair, Edwina once confessed to a teacher that she was ready to end her life. Her father intervened, moving her to another school, but the feeling of being unwanted lingered. Every attempt at friendship or connection seemed to meet with cold rejection. Her father, consumed by his career and new family, sided with his wife and grew frustrated with Edwina for failing to meet his expectations. She remained isolated until her grandfather took her in. At 15, Edwina moved to his London residence, Broadlands. Joseph Castle owned mansions and estates, his fortune exceeding £2 million, a sum splashed across newspapers. When it became clear his granddaughter would inherit this wealth, London's high society took sudden notice. By then, Edwina had blossomed into an attractive young woman, her manners defying her stepmother's old criticisms. She was praised as refined and impeccably honest. With her substantial dowry, she became one of the capital's most sought-after brides. Her grandfather beamed with pride: his granddaughter could outshine her tormentors with a brilliant marriage. Among her suitors emerged Louis Mountbatten, a man whose name would later be tied to a dazzling yet controversial chapter of British history. Tall, poised, with court-honed manners, Louis seemed destined to move among royalty. His mother was the sister of Empress Alexandra Feodorovna, wife of Russia's last Tsar. His father was a German prince, and Louis himself was close friends with the heir to the British throne. Yet behind the sheen of titles, his reality was modest. His income was small, and only his name and lineage opened doors to elite circles. Edwina's grandfather didn't live to see the wedding but gave his blessing. The ceremony took place on July 18, 1922, in Westminster Abbey, a national event. Over 8,000 guests attended, including the Dowager Queen Alexandra and Queen Mary, wife of George V. The Prince of Wales served as best man. Newspapers dubbed it the wedding of the year and Edwina England's most beautiful woman. But beneath the glowing headlines lay a different truth. Her beauty didn't come with warmth. Edwina's coldness surfaced in her marriage and her relationship with her children. At first, she and Louis led what seemed a happy life, traveling the world, dazzling at social events, even dabbling in film with Charlie Chaplin. But the movie never reached theaters, a fitting symbol of a marriage that sparkled on the surface but lacked true depth. Wealth opened endless doors for Edwina: jewel collections, mansions, couture gowns. Her fortune, in today's terms, was about £112 million. Yet money couldn't bridge the gap with her children. In 1924, Patricia was born 5 years later, Pamela. Nannies raised them while their parents drifted further apart. The couple shared little beyond a love for luxury, lavish parties, and prestige. Their country estate hosted luminaries like Fred Astaire, Charlie Chaplin, and Noel Coward. For the parents, these were glittering nights. For their daughters, it was an empty home and a distant mother. My mother loved her pet lion, Sabi, more than us, Pamela later wrote. We were brought to her once a day for a quick hello. At night, especially when guests came, nannies put us to bed. But we'd often sneak out to eavesdrop. Mother and father were always shouting at each other. In 1937, Edwina was in Hungary with her younger daughter. Patricia, ill, stayed in England, and Louis was busy in London. An old admirer, Bunny, arrived in Budapest with an enticing offer, a romantic trip through Italy. To Edwina, this was far more appealing than motherhood. Pamela didn't fit into her plans, so Edwina left her in a hotel with a nanny, no questions asked. Pamela cried and begged to come along, but her pleas were dismissed. The nanny was told to send all expenses to England for payment. Soon, Edwina was swept up in resort life, parties, and travels, so much so that she didn't think of her daughter for 2 months. When she did, she realized with horror she couldn't recall which hotel she'd left Pamela in. She returned to a familiar Budapest hotel, but Pamela wasn't there. Near panic, Edwina searched frantically, chasing addresses from her travels. It took 6 months to find her daughter. Edwina had forgotten she'd used an alias during the trip and switched hotels 3 times, finding each too inconvenient. How could she? Louis fumed when he learned his daughter had been lost for half a year. At the start of the Second World War, both daughters were sent to the United States, where the Vanderbilts took them in. Back in England, Pamela became a lady-in-waiting to young Princess Elizabeth. Years later, after the King's death, she accompanied the new Queen Elizabeth II on her first major Commonwealth tour but soon stepped down. "It's an utterly unnatural life," she said. "It wasn't for me." In 1960, the year Edwina died, Pamela married decorator David Hicks. Their marriage was stormy, producing 3 children. Their daughter recalled how the living room walls were once painted glossy dark brown, not a designer's whim, but because Pamela, in a fight, had hurled glasses of cola at her husband. On August 27, 1979, Louis Mountbatten was killed in a terrorist attack. A bomb on his yacht in Ireland claimed his life, along with his grandson, an elderly relative, and a local teen working on the boat. His death deeply affected young Prince Charles, now King of the United Kingdom, who saw Louis as a supportive mentor, almost a father figure. Recent revelations have uncovered disturbing details about Louis's private life. The aristocrat spent time with young boys from an orphanage, taking what he wanted against their will. You know what I mean. If you want a video diving into the dark side of Lord Mountbatten and why British intelligence covered for him, let me know in the comments. Lady Pamela is still alive today. Her daughter, India Hicks, chronicled her life in a recent book, Lady Pamela *, a candid account of a woman shaped by a famous name and a heavy legacy. The Mountbatten family story reads like a tragic saga of glamour and coldness, fame and emptiness, where personal dramas hid behind lavish facades. Edwina left behind a myth of dazzling beauty but failed azure system. Couldn't give her daughters the one thing they needed most, warmth and protection. Pamela lived a long life and found a way to tell her truth. We're left with the question, what's worse, being forgotten by chance or feeling unwanted your whole life? What do you think? Can a mother like that be forgiven? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. If this story moved you, support the video with a like and subscribe to catch more stories about lives that shaped history.